Every e-commerce store has the same silent killer. It isn't competition, pricing, or the economy. It's the abandoned cart. Welcome everyone to video 2 of the 10K Database Activation series. Today we're diving into a powerful explainer on exactly how to recover lost revenue using automation. If you're an e-commerce business owner or you run a marketing agency and you're trying to plug those massive leaks in your sales funnel, you are in the exact right place.
So let's dive right into how massive this problem actually is. Globally, the cart abandonment rate sits at a staggering 70.22%. Let that sink in for a second. That means 7 out of every 10 people who take the time to fill up a cart on your site end up leaving without paying you a single dime.
In this explainer, we'll quickly cover the 70% silent killer, why shoppers actually leave, the email versus SMS showdown, the multi-channel recovery sequence, and finally, exactly how we're automating all this with GoHighLevel.
All right, section 1, the 70% silent killer. Let's look at a real-world scenario of a business that was bleeding cash without even realizing it.
Picture this, fast-growing online skincare brand. They were spending a massive $180,000 every single month on traffic. They had an okay conversion rate at 2.3%. Customers were clicking their ads, adding products to their carts, and making it all the way to checkout. But then, they just left without purchasing. And the craziest part? The business was essentially abandoning these high-intent shoppers by sending just one single weak recovery email an hour later.
And you know, this perfectly illustrates a much, much larger problem. Across the US and EU alone, an estimated $260 billion in lost orders are recoverable simply by fixing these checkout and follow-up leaks. That money is already in your ecosystem, you just aren't picking it up.
Which brings us to section 2, why shoppers actually leave. And for this, we really need to fundamentally reframe how we view these quote-unquote lost sales. It's incredibly easy to look at an abandoned cart and take it personally. You might think the shopper rejected your product or hated your price or didn't trust your brand. But ask yourself, does an abandoned cart really mean that customer is gone forever? Well, looking at the hard data, the answer is absolutely not. A massive 40% of shoppers report they are just browsing or not quite ready to buy yet. Another 40% get surprised by extra costs like shipping or taxes at the very end, and 20% are turned off by slow delivery times. What this tells us is absolutely crucial. Their intent to buy is still incredibly high.
So the big takeaway here is that abandoned carts are not necessarily lost customers. A lot of buyers are simply distracted, uncertain, or just not ready to complete the purchase at that exact second. Think about it. The dog barks, the baby cries, their boss walks past their desk. They didn't say no to your product, they just hit pause.
Let's move to section 3, the email versus SMS showdown, and see how we actually bring these distracted folks back.
Most stores rely heavily on a basic email sequence. But when we compare email directly to SMS, it is a completely different ballgame. Email sits at roughly a 20% open rate. SMS, on the other hand, completely crushes it with a 95 to 98% open rate, usually within just 3 minutes of hitting their phone. Email click-through rates sit around 3%, while SMS jumps up to roughly 20%. And revenue? Email pulls at about $260 per 1,000 carts. SMS can easily pull in over $640. But here's the real secret sauce, backed up by Sendarium data. It's not an either-or situation. SMS doesn't replace email. It recovers the carts that your emails never get seen by. The magic happens when you orchestrate them together. Email gives you the visual details, and SMS gives you that immediate, unignorable nudge.
So let's get highly practical. Section 4, the multi-channel recovery sequence. We're going to map out the exact workflow you should build to capture this hidden revenue.
Here's a perfectly timed workflow you can easily set up. Exactly 15 minutes after the cart is abandoned, a personalized SMS triggers, simply reminding the customer about their saved card. If they don't buy, then at the 1-hour mark, an email hits their inbox showing the exact abandoned products, the prices, and a limited time 10% offer. Finally, at 24 hours, a final SMS goes out, creating urgency while that purchase intent is still warm.
And the beauty of this is the logic running behind the scenes. If a purchase is completed at any point, the customer automatically enters a post-purchase thank you sequence. If there is no purchase after the final text, the context seamlessly moves into a longer-term browse and cart abandonment nurture sequence to keep building that relationship.
Let's go back to that skincare brand we were talking about. By putting this exact multi-channel sequence into place,
The results were explosive. They captured 4,847 abandoned carts. Because they used conversational texts, 2,103 people responded to the very first SMS alone. From that, they completed 1,247 purchases.
That resulted in $87,400 in recovered revenue in just 30 days. And I really want to emphasize this point. They did not need more traffic. They didn't run more ads, they didn't create new products, and they didn't lower their base prices. The major improvements simply came from following up with people who had already shown buying intent.
Let's move to our final section, automating with GoHighLevel. I'm going to show you how this builds out technically, and don't worry, you don't need any confusing CRM jargon to understand this. The process is actually super visual and straightforward. First, you set an abandoned checkout trigger that talks directly to your e-commerce store. Second, you configure wait actions to control the timing of your messages. Third, you just drop in your SMS and email templates. And fourth, you build logical paths based on whether they purchase, so you're never sending a discount code to someone who just happily paid full price.
The true backbone of this whole system is the wait action. This keeps your messaging perfectly paced. Because think about it, sending an SMS 3 days later is just annoying. But sending it at exactly 15 minutes? That's helpful customer service. Timing is everything here.
Ultimately, if you take nothing else away from this explainer, remember this. 70% of your buyers are not necessarily saying no. They may simply be saying not right now. Your job is to be there when right now arrives. So the only question left is, are you going to let your competitors